There is one money rule that Morgan Housel believes changes everything, and it is a rule that almost nobody follows until it is too late. Most people spend their 20s chasing income. They want a bigger salary, a better title, a nicer apartment. And there is nothing wrong with that. But Housel argues that somewhere around the age of 30, something shifts. You start to realize that no amount of income will ever make you feel free if you do not understand this one rule. And the rule is this: use money to buy time, not things. It sounds simple, almost too simple. But Housel has spent his entire career proving that this one idea separates those who build lasting wealth from those who spend their entire lives feeling broke, no matter how much they earn. He writes, "Money's greatest intrinsic value, and this can't be overstated, is its ability to give you control over your time." In his book, The Psychology of Money, Housel lays out a vision of wealth that has nothing to do with mansions, sports cars, or luxury watches. It has everything to do with a single question. When you wake up tomorrow morning, can you do whatever you want? For most people, the answer is no. They have to go to work. They have to answer to a boss. They have to show up at a certain time, stay until a certain time, and do what someone else tells them to do. And the cruel irony is that many of these people earn a lot of money. They just have no freedom. Housel makes a stunning observation about modern life. He says that Americans are richer than they have ever been. Average incomes have risen dramatically over the past 50 years. We have bigger houses, faster cars, more technology than any generation in human history. But studies consistently show that Americans are not any happier than they were in the 1950s. Why? Because while incomes went up, control over time went down. People work longer hours. They are always reachable through their phones. They feel constantly behind. They traded the one thing that actually makes humans happy, control over their time, for a bigger house they are never in and a nicer car they sit in during their commute to a job they cannot quit. This is the trap that catches most people after 30. You have spent a decade building your career, increasing your income, upgrading your lifestyle. But somewhere along the way, you realize that you have less freedom than you did when you were 22 and broke. Because now you have a mortgage, car payments, a lifestyle that demands every paycheck. You have golden handcuffs, and you built them yourself. Housel's father experienced this firsthand. His father was an emergency room doctor. It was a high-paying job, a prestigious job, the kind of job people dream about. But after 2 decades of grueling shifts, of seeing people at their worst, of never knowing when the phone would ring, his father retired early, not because he had saved enough, but because he needed his time back more than he needed more money. That experience shaped Housel's entire philosophy. He writes, "Doing something you love on a schedule you can't control can feel the same as doing something you hate." Think about that. You could have your dream job, but if someone else controls your schedule, if you cannot decide when you work and when you do not, if you are always on call, always checking your email, always one notification away from being pulled back in, then it does not matter how much you love the work. You have no freedom, and without freedom, Housel argues, you cannot be truly happy. He puts it even more directly. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. Not a fancy car, not a corner office, just the ability to choose. This is why the rule matters so much after 30. In your 20s, you have energy and time. You can work 80 hours a week and barely feel it. But after 30, things change. Maybe you have a family. Maybe your health is no longer bulletproof. Maybe you have watched someone you love lose their time to illness or circumstance. Maybe you have simply seen enough of life to know that time is not unlimited. And suddenly, the question shifts from how can I earn more to how can I own my time? So how do you actually do it? How do you use money to buy time instead of things? Housel's answer starts with something most people overlook entirely. He says the most important financial decision you will ever make is not which stock to buy or which house to purchase. It is your savings rate. He writes, independence at any income level is driven by your savings rate. And past a certain level of income, your savings rate is driven by your ability to keep your lifestyle expectations from running away. This is the part most people get wrong after 30. As their income rises, their lifestyle rises to match it. They get a raise and immediately upgrade their apartment. They get a bonus and buy a new car. They start earning more, so they start spending more. And the savings rate, the only thing that actually buys freedom, stays flat or even shrinks. Housel describes this as the gap between your ego and your income. Your ego tells you that you deserve the upgrade, that you have earned it, that people at your level drive this kind of car and live in this kind of neighborhood. And your ego is convincing. It has the voice of every advertisement, every social media post, every colleague who just renovated their kitchen. But every dollar that goes to feeding your ego is a dollar that does not go toward buying your freedom. And freedom, not stuff, is what you actually want after 30. Let me give you a concrete example that makes this painfully clear. Imagine two people. Both are 35 years old. Both earn $150,000 a year. Same city, same profession, same starting point. Person A saves 10% of their income. That is $15,000 a year. They spend the rest on a nice apartment in a trendy neighborhood, a leased BMW, regular vacations, and eating out 3 or 4 times a week. They look successful. Their Instagram is impressive. Their friends think they are killing it. But after 10 years of saving $15,000 a year, invested at an average return of 7%, they have roughly $200,000, enough for maybe 18 months of their current lifestyle if they stopped working. One layoff, one health scare, one recession, and they are in serious trouble. They are completely dependent on their next paycheck. Despite earning over $1.5 million in a decade, they own almost none of their time. Person B saves 40% of their income. That is $60,000 a year. They live in a smaller apartment in a less trendy part of town. They drive a 5-year-old Honda. They cook at home most nights. They take vacations, but modest ones. Nobody looks at person B and thinks they are wealthy. Nobody is impressed by their lifestyle. But after 10 years, person B has accumulated roughly $830,000. That is over 5 years of living expenses. They could quit their job tomorrow and not work for half a decade. They could take a year off to travel. They could start a business with no pressure to make money immediately. They could say no to a promotion that requires relocating to a city they hate. They have options. They have freedom. They have time. Same income. Completely different lives. The only difference is what they chose to buy with their money. Person A bought the appearance of success. Person B bought actual freedom. And the irony is that 10 years later, person B is in a position to have everything person A has and more, because their money has been compounding while person A was spending theirs. And that brings us to the second part of this rule, compounding. Housel talks extensively about the almost magical nature of compound interest. And he uses Warren Buffett as the ultimate example. Buffett is worth over $100 billion. He is one of the most admired investors in history. But here is a fact that most people never stop to think about. 97% of Warren Buffett's wealth came after his 65th birthday. Not because he became a smarter investor in his 60s. He started investing when he was 10 years old. By age 30, he had about $1 million. By 50, about $250 million. Impressive numbers, but tiny compared to what was coming. The exponential explosion happened in the final decades, because that is how compounding works. It is slow, and then it is sudden. Housel writes, if you can be an average investor for an above-average period of time, you can achieve absolutely incredible returns. The key insight for someone over 30 is this. You still have 30 to 40 years of compounding ahead of you. That is enormous. If person B, from our example, continues saving $60,000 a year for another 20 years, their portfolio does not just grow linearly. It explodes. We are talking about $3.5 to $4 million. From a teacher could accumulate from that same salary, all because they gave compounding the time it needed. But here is the part that makes this psychologically brutal. Compounding requires patience, and patience is the one thing our modern world is designed to destroy. Housel addresses this directly in his book, Same as Ever. He writes, most great things in life, from love to careers to investing, gain their value from two things, patience and scarcity, patience to let something grow, and scarcity to admire what it grows into. Everything around us rewards speed, same-day delivery, instant streaming, real-time notifications. Our brains have been trained to expect results now, but compound interest does not care about your impatience. It works on its own schedule. And its schedule is measured in decades, not days. For years, your balance will grow slowly, painfully slowly. And you will be tempted to do something, to trade, to chase a hot stock tip you saw online, to pull money out for that renovation, or that vacation, or that car. And every time you give in to that temptation, you reset the compounding clock. You rob your future self of years of exponential growth. Housel warns, growth is driven by compounding, which always takes time. Destruction is driven by single points of failure, which can happen in seconds. It takes decades to build wealth. It takes one bad decision to destroy it. One moment of impatience. One leveraged bet that goes wrong. One panic sell during a market crash. The people who build lasting wealth are not the ones who make the best investments. They are the ones who avoid the catastrophic mistake. They survive. And survival is everything. Because survival is the prerequisite for compounding. Housel puts it this way. More than I want big returns, I want to be financially unbreakable. And if I am financially unbreakable, I actually think I will get the biggest returns, because I'll be able to stick around long enough for compounding to work wonders. That is such a powerful reframe. Most people are trying to maximize their returns. They want the best stock, the highest yield, the perfect trade. But Housel says forget about maximizing. Focus on surviving. Because the person who gets average returns for 40 years will always beat the person who gets incredible returns for 5 years and then blows up. Always. The math is not even close. Think about all the brilliant hedge fund managers who made 40% returns one year and then lost everything the next. Think about all the crypto traders who turned $10,000 into $1 million and then wrote it back down to zero because they could not stop. They were chasing maximum returns. They should have been chasing maximum survival time. Because time is the multiplier that makes everything else work. This is why Housel obsesses over what he calls room for error. He writes, "The most important part of every plan is planning on your plan not going according to plan." After 30, this becomes critical, because life gets complicated in ways you did not expect. You might lose a job during a recession. You might have a health scare. Your partner might need to stop working. Your parents might need financial help. Your kids might need something you did not budget for. The future is always messier and more expensive than you planned. The people who build lasting wealth are not the ones with the perfect financial plan. They are the ones whose plan can absorb the shocks. They keep cash reserves. They do not over-leverage. They do not put all their eggs in one basket. They leave margin for error in everything they do, because they know that the unexpected is not the exception. The unexpected is the rule. Housel describes his own approach. He assumes his lifetime investment returns will be 1/3 lower than the historical average, not because he is pessimistic, because that buffer lets him sleep at night. And he says something brilliant about this. The best financial decision is not always the most rational one. It is the one that lets you sleep peacefully. Because if your financial plan keeps you up at night, you will eventually abandon it. And an abandoned plan compounds nothing. Now let me share something from Housel that completely reframes how you should think about financial independence. Because most people think it means never having to work again, and that feels impossibly far away. But Housel argues that financial independence is not a destination, it is a spectrum. In The Art of Spending Money, he describes 15 levels of financial independence. And most people are stuck between level 3 and level 7, thinking they need to reach level 15 to feel free. But look at what happens at each step. Level 4 is simply having enough savings to handle everyday problems without panic. Your car breaks down, you fix it without checking your bank balance first. An unexpected medical bill arrives, you pay it without skipping rent. That tiny cushion, that simple buffer, transforms your daily experience of being alive. The anxiety goes away. The constant, low-grade financial stress that most people carry around like a backpack full of rocks just disappears. Level 7 is having enough saved to take a meaningful risk. You can leave a toxic job without having the next one lined up. You can take 3 months off to figure out what you actually want to do with your life. You can say no to a lucrative opportunity that would require sacrificing something more important. That is real power. That is what money is for. Level 10 is having enough that work becomes genuinely optional for a meaningful period. Maybe a year, maybe 2. You are not retired, but you are in control. You show up to work because you choose to, not because you are afraid of what happens if you do not. Every step up this ladder buys you more time, more freedom, more control over your daily life. And you do not need to reach level 15 to feel the difference. Going from level 3 to level 5 is life-changing. Going from level 5 to level 7 is transformative. Housel writes, "The simplest formula for a pretty nice life is independence plus purpose. Independence to do what you want. Purpose to want to do meaningful things. Not independence to impress strangers. Not purpose defined by your job title or your Instagram followers. Just the quiet freedom to spend your time on things that actually matter to you. That is the goal. And money, used correctly, is the tool that gets you there." Now, I want to tell you a story that perfectly illustrates what happens when people use money to buy things instead of time. And it involves one of the richest families in American history, the Vanderbilt family. In the 1800s, Cornelius Vanderbilt was the richest man in the world. He had the equivalent of roughly $500 billion in today's money. $500 billion. That is more than Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. He built his fortune in railroads and shipping, and when he died, he left it all to his children and grandchildren. Now, what did the Vanderbilt heirs do with this unimaginable wealth? They spent it, aggressively. They built mansions that were the largest private homes in American history. They threw parties that cost the equivalent of millions of dollars each. They competed with each other to see who could live the most extravagant lifestyle. They bought every possible thing money could buy, and within 2 generations, the Vanderbilt fortune was essentially gone. At a family reunion in the 1970s, there was not a single millionaire among the descendants of the richest man in American history. $500 billion evaporated in a few decades, because every single dollar went toward buying things: status, appearance, spectacle. Not one generation thought about using that money to buy the only thing that actually lasts: freedom and time. Housel uses stories like this to make a point that hits hard after 30. He says, "Be nicer and less flashy. No one is impressed with your possessions as much as you are." The Vanderbilts thought their mansions and parties would make them admired. But nobody remembers the parties. History remembers the waste, the cautionary tale. Because things fade, possessions depreciate. But time, invested wisely, compounds into something permanent. Contrast the Vanderbilts with Ronald Reed, the janitor who quietly invested his modest savings for 50 years and died with $8 million. Reed had no mansion, no parties, no fame, but he had complete control over his time. He worked because he chose to, not because he had to. And when he died, he gave away more money to charity than most Vanderbilt heirs ever possessed. That is the difference between buying things and buying time. One leaves nothing, the other leaves a legacy. Housel also shares a perspective from his latest book, Same as Ever, that connects perfectly to this idea. He writes, "Most great things in life, from love to careers to investing, gain their value from 2 things: patience and scarcity. Patience to let something grow, and scarcity to admire what it grows into. Time is the scarcest resource you have. Every day you spend chasing possessions is a day you cannot get back. Every year you spend maintaining a lifestyle you cannot afford is a year that your money could have been compounding toward your freedom. The math is not complicated. The psychology is what makes it so hard." There is one more idea from Housel that brings this all together, and it is especially important for anyone over 30. He says that who you are today is not who you will be in 10 years. People change dramatically. Your values change. Your priorities change. What makes you happy at 32 will not necessarily make you happy at 45. The goals you set in your 20s might feel completely irrelevant by your 40s. He writes, "Compounding works best when you can give a plan years or decades to grow. This is true for not only savings, but careers and relationships. Endurance is key. And when you consider our tendency to change who we are over time, balance at every point in your life becomes a strategy to avoid future regret and encourage endurance. This is why extreme financial plans almost always fail. The 30-year-old who decides to work 100-hour weeks until 50 and then retire might burn out at 38. The 35-year-old who decides to save nothing because they love their current lifestyle might desperately wish they had options at 45 when their priorities shift, when they have kids, when they are tired, when they realize they want something different. The solution is balance. Save enough to build options, but not so aggressively that you are miserable today." Spend enough to enjoy your life, but not so much that you trap yourself in a lifestyle you cannot escape. Give your future self the gift of flexibility, because you have no idea what that person will want or need. Housel himself lives this way. Despite being a best-selling author and a successful investor, he and his wife live well below their means. Not because they cannot afford more, but because they value freedom more than any purchase. He has said their everyday pleasures are long walks, reading books, and listening to podcasts. Their needs are modest by choice, and that modesty is not sacrifice. It is strategy. Every dollar they do not spend is a dollar buying their most valuable asset, time. So let us bring it all together. What is the one money rule that changes everything after 30? Use money to buy time, not things. Every financial decision you make after 30 either moves you toward freedom or away from it. Every dollar you save buys you a piece of your future. Every dollar you spend on impressing someone else is a dollar that cannot buy you an hour of your life back. Here is what Morgan Housel wants you to understand. 1. Control over your time is the highest dividend money pays, higher than any stock return, higher than any salary increase. If you have money but no time, you have nothing. 2. Your savings rate matters more than your income. A high income with no savings is just a faster treadmill. The gap between what you earn and what you spend is the only thing that creates freedom. 3. Compounding needs time to work its magic. You still have decades ahead of you. Every year you wait is a year of compounding you never get back. Start now. Be patient. Let time do the heavy lifting. 4. Build room for error into everything. Life will surprise you. The people who survive the unexpected are the ones who plan for it. Keep a margin of safety in your finances and in your plans. 5. Financial independence is not all or nothing. Every level you climb gives you more freedom. You do not need to be a millionaire to feel the difference. Even a small cushion changes everything. 6. You will change. Your priorities will shift. Your goals will evolve. Give your future self the gift of options by maintaining balance today. Do not lock yourself into a lifestyle that demands every dollar you earn. Morgan Housel did not discover some hidden investment secret. He discovered something simpler and far more powerful, that money is a tool for buying the most precious resource in the universe, your time. And that realization, once you truly understand it, changes everything. Ronald Reed, the janitor from our first video, understood this without ever reading a finance book. He did not care about looking rich. He cared about having options. And he spent his entire life quietly building the ultimate luxury, freedom. You can do the same. It starts with one decision. The next time you are about to buy something, ask yourself, am I buying a thing or am I giving up my time? If this video opened your eyes, subscribe to the channel. We publish new videos every week, breaking down the deepest ideas in wealth psychology and financial freedom. And if you missed our first video on why 99% of people stay broke, watch it next. The link is on screen right now.